たとえ世界がいかに移ろうとも、俺はただ俺であるだけだ。
So if you watch a lot of anime, you may or may not have heard of Studio Trigger. Trigger made an anime called Inou-Battles Within Everyday Life, or the English name when supernatural battles become commonplace. And this is right after a series they've done called Kill la Kill. So of course these shows get a comparison, even though one is clearly action-driven and one is clearly character-driven. However, I prefer to talk about Inou-Battles as a standalone thing versus comparing it to something that's unrelated to it. And today I'll be analyzing the Outcasts of Unawakened Emotions. The story is about a group of teenagers who one day acquire superpowers. Having knowledge of supernatural things due to his personality, our main protagonist, July, whatever, helps his friends cope with the fact that they are different from everyone else. There's a certain reason why I word it that way, because it kind of ties in with the theme of the entire show. Interestingly enough, the story is based around the background characters. The synopsis I gave you is about the within everyday life part, not the Inou-Battles part. Inou-Battles mean supernatural battles, just in case you want to know. While this group deals with their everyday lives, a war is going on. The Great Fairy War. And in the anime, they don't really delve that much into it. It's not really about that. They have like one episode where they discuss the another group's agenda to compete in the Great Fairy War, but that's basically it. Not that important. That's understandable considering that Trigger only had 12 episodes to tell a story, but they wanted to make it more character-driven versus action-driven, which makes sense since it's a harem anime. In these type of animes, you want people to vote for a girl to essentially court this main protagonist, or you just decide that, hey, that Mirai chick is the best. So now delving into the characters, our main protagonist, July, is a Chuuni, which essentially means that he's kind of a geek who makes up his own dark backstory and history, and it's all for the sake of fun. But people on the outside view it as immature. And this being your protagonist, and this being a harem anime, you're like, oh, why are all these girls falling for him? Why? That doesn't make sense. He's a geek, he seems a little socially awkward, so why? What's the thing about this guy that's making the girls interested in him? Well, the way the series does it is that he's the only one being truly honest with himself. The fact that in high school, a person decides to follow their own interests and passions and not allow his personality to change just because it's looked down upon is pretty rare to find. We all fall into that trap of wanting to be socially accepted, so we avoid doing anything others might think is weird. I feel the girls also fall for him because he's kind of realistic about certain scenarios. He understands that he won't have this time with his friends always. There's even an episode where he talks about the youngest member of the group needing a friend, needing support, because he won't always be there for her. He's honest, he's straightforward, he gets that the world will change, situations will change, friends will come and go, but he will remain the same fun-loving Chuuni that he always is. His care and passion in wanting to help his friends and make them feel comfortable, even though they're now looked at as outcasts as he is, himself being an outcast. He wants to make the process easier for them so they can live within their everyday life. I'm going to go following that arc of these characters being outsiders to the world, and further discuss that and how that arc continues throughout the show. So I'm going to talk about the characters in a certain order here, starting with the youngest, Chifuyu. Chifuyu is an elementary school student who has a power, World Create, which Ando made up, by the way. Ando made all the names for all his friends, so they would all feel unified. And not like outcasts. She can create anything within her imagination, or anyone else's. Chifuyu's arc is a little short, but significant. She has to deal with not being able to tell her best friend her secret, that she has superpowers. The idea that she has to hide herself from society, and even the people that she cares about, is kind of a small undertone for the rest of the show. That's the main theme that they're going with. The reason I can say this with confidence is because this theme is established throughout more of the characters. It starts with Chifuyu, and it presents this theme very openly with her episode. It's very important that Chifuyu has friends from both sides. The ones that know about her secret that she has superpowers, and the one that doesn't know the full story but is still willing to accept her for who she is. And next we move on to Sayumi. God bless her. She doesn't get much. I was sick. Oh gosh, she's so angry at me. No, I was sick though. Next is Tomoyo. She's a young writer and also a tuning. Tuning exams. She's a ninja. Cool. Next is Tomoyo. She's a young writer and also a tuning, which gives her a significant lead above the rest of the girls, since Ando and her are the same. There's a bit of self-denial when it comes to Tomoyo, where Ando decides to be himself, Tomoyo decides to hide herself. As I said before, Tomoyo's a young writer, but she decides to hide her passion for writing from the others in their group until Ando finds out. She has goals and aspirations, but in fear of people judging her, she decides to hide it. Even from the group who seem to be her closest, if not only, friends? It's kind of weird how she pushes away Ando, and that's kind of emphasizing her pushing away the Chuni side of her. Yet she accepts Ando for writing and for interests, so it's kind of like the push and pull, give and take. It's kind of a self-denial and a self-affirmation. Where have I heard that before? It's difficult putting yourself out there and allowing people to judge you for who you really are. In fear of being an outcast, she decides to hide her true self. She doesn't want to be seen as a chunie, or a freak, or a geek, or anything. She just wants to be seen as a normal high school girl. But as the series goes on, she starts telling people how she feels and letting people get involved. Telling Ando what she's writing about. Admitting that she wants to be a writer to the group of her closest friends. She's slowly but surely putting herself out there. She's trying to get over the fear of being an outcast and trying to become herself. Tomoyo's a very good character because of the fact that as the series goes on, she slowly but surely starts to accept herself more and gets over the fear of being an outcast just because of her interests. Next up is Mirai. She's basically the symbol of outcasts. Even the writers forgot about her. For Mirai, she didn't have that group of 5. She had to learn about her powers alone and go through that learning experience by herself. And because of her awakened powers, she didn't really know who to talk to about this. This kind of brought out that sense of, I'm literally alone. And I don't feel like she's the type of character that gets out much. The way she talks to the members of the groups and how she acts when Ando and her are dating, she doesn't seem like she has that many friends that she could talk to. So the fact that someone was interested in her, like, excited her. It was a new experience for her. She doesn't show up in the show for long. She's in like 4 episodes, 5 at most. But the fact that now she definitely has friends that she can talk to about this and go to ask for advice is a very interesting thing, so she doesn't feel like an outcast anymore. She has friends. She has people that she can depend on.
Also, she's the only one that dated Ando so far, so she's in the lead in my book.
Then there's Hakuto, and her character arc is a very interesting one. She is, technically, in accordance to harem standards, the generic childhood friend character. She wants to be more than friends with Ando, and clearly states this. However, she can't understand a single word he says. Ando, being a chunie, talks a lot about mythology and Bible and dark stuff and dark history stuff and research that he's done on the internet. But she doesn't exactly understand what's cool about all these elements. So to put it in perspective, let's try this. I'm guessing a lot of you watch anime to a certain extent. And maybe you talk about it with your friends, or someone you admire, someone you love, someone important to you. You talk about it. What if your friends never really understood that? None of your friends really watched anime. None of your friends really cared for it. They weren't as interested in it as you were. Let's say the same thing for video games. You're very into this Persona series, but your friends don't really like games or JRPGs or what have you, and they're just not interested, and they never really understood that Chie is the best. What if all these months, years, etc. that you've been talking about shonen versus shoujo, your favorite yandere, how your siblings are baka, they never fully understood the things you love aren't reaching the person that you love. And there are tiny and huge hints that lead up to the iconic moment of the series. She's the last one to get a joke. She notices that Ando and Tomoyo are getting closer. She doesn't fight with Ando. In episode 4, when Chifuyo is having an argument with her best friend, Hachiko points out, "You're close enough to fight after all." Look, I have two brothers and I love them, but do we get in fights? Yes. Do I still love them? Yes. I've had disagreements with friends and it still worked out. I just don't have friends anymore. This desire of wanting to understand your best friend who you care for, yet you're being pushed aside because you don't understand? The fact that she's never understood, the fact that to Ando, she is an outcast because she doesn't understand his world. She wants to be special in Ando's eyes. She doesn't wish to be an outcast to him. The fact that she's the only one that can call him Jukun gives her hope that she's not going to be replaced and that she's important to Ando. Hatsuko has easily become one of my favorite characters because of her wonderful arc that builds up throughout the series. And I feel like she's made a sense of progress throughout this story because she's trying to learn little by little with help from Tomoyo. Now, Trigger, having to cram as much as they did into 12 episodes, did their best, and honestly, I believe it turned out okay. Having that one episode with the side characters was interesting, and it dipped into what the other side is like. Now, the shortcomings of it, they chose to end Hatsuko and Tomoya's character arcs, and Sayumi kind of. I wish that it was a bit more general, where all the girls got a full-on character arc and such like that, versus these are clearly our two favorites. That's the two we're gonna choose. I feel it was a bit too focused on a certain pairing of Tomoyo and Ando, versus all the girls having an equal chance at his heart. I'm not sure if in the novel a girl had won him over, but for a harem anime, it should be equal footing, equal opportunity, no favorites. So the fans have someone to cheer for, you know? So sometimes the others seem just there, and that's kind of not a good thing to do with it. So that's why I say they did alright, but not the best. I think Trigger did a good job, considering this was their first harem anime, I believe? And thinking of everything as Kill by Kill would be kind of silly. We should look at things at their own merit and not solely based on its predecessor. Trigger should be allowed to spread its wings. And make a full-on anime with Best Girl Mirai. Hi, I'm Micah, aka Pasta Guy. Thanks for watching my first episode of PastaGuyAnalyze. Yay! PastaGuyAnalyze. I messed up my own thing.